Hey guys, welcome to Shoot the Shit podcast. You're here with Juan and Sean, and we are here today to talk about his life. Just kind of give some background on Sean a little bit before we get started. Sean has been in state and federal prison, and a lot of his message today is pretty much stories about what he's done and how you shouldn't do it. I mean, obviously, it's really cool that he's spreading this message because, it's not every day that people turn their life around and want to make it into a positive message, for everyone. It's not necessarily for himself, but it's literally for everyone. So I'm really happy to have him on the show. This is going to be really cool. So, Sean, go ahead and start, man. Give us a little background on yourself.
All right, what's up, brother? How are you?
Man, I'm good.
I'm 7, actually 46. Can't seem to remember what my own age is these days. 46. I grew up in a broken home. We weren't poor, but my mom was basically she was a single mom. My dad, I saw him every other weekend, and I was a latchkey kid. So I basically, when I was in the 3rd grade, I had the run of the house to myself, take myself to school, come home. That's pretty young to be doing that. I put my mom in a situation where, I got kicked out of preschool. So, I was in 3rd grade in preschool and I got kicked out. So it was almost like getting expelled from a regular school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who gets expelled from preschool? So from a really young age, I was on a crash course with prison to begin with, on the road.
It's kind of crazy how that starts. It's like a natural thing almost.
Yeah, well, my story wasn't because I didn't come from a background of from the ghetto or the hood or anything like that. I grew up in a middle class neighborhood, mostly white. There was a black family, Filipino, and another Asian and a Portuguese family up the street. And so I was pretty dark. You can see I'm mostly white, but I look Mexican, right? And then the tattoos definitely make me look like I'm Hispanic. So yeah, for the time I was a kid, I didn't really fit in anywhere, and I got picked on a lot because I was really small until I had my growth spurt, and I just got in a lot of trouble. Had the run of the house. Did a lot of crazy stuff. From running my mom's do you know what BART is? The Bay Area Rapid Transit, the BART train. It's almost like a Chicago. They have like the L. So the BART train is kind of like our mass transit system that goes from San Francisco and it goes all over the Bay Area. Well, I wanted to. I'd stolen my mom's key. I found my mom's spare key, right? And I wanted to drive her truck. And so what I did was I went and took the bus, went to the BART station that she parks at, got into her truck, drove it back home, was partying all day long. I did this in the morning, and so obviously I wasn't at school. I cut school, and brought some friends over to the house. We were drinking, doing some stuff. And my other buddy stole his mom's car, but she had a Mustang, and so I'm like, well, I want to drive that. So we need to take my mom's truck back to the BART station. So I'll drive the Mustang, and you can drive the truck, and then we'll do that, right? But I had to teach this dude how to drive a stick because it was a stick shift.
Yeah.
And long story short, man, before I knew it, that dude ran right into my house. Seriously.
Oh, shit.
Didn't know how to drive a stick. He popped it and just went onto the gas. Dude, we went boom, 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 boom over the sidewalk, right through the front yard, right into the house, right? And it was into my room. So there was my room and there was another room hit right in the middle of it. So there was a hole in both rooms. And so I was like, well, shit, how am I going to hide this? You know what I mean?
And you can't. You totally can't.
Yeah, like if I'd have ran into something in the truck, I could have ditched the truck and say somebody stole it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but how am I going to hide this hole in the house? Yeah, it's shit like that. That was like my whole life, just doing things like that would get me into trouble. And Yeah, my mom was a single mom, so dude, she had no control over me whatsoever. It was crazy.
Well, shit, I can only imagine. I mean, like, obviously, shout out to single mothers. Like, it's a lot, obviously, to take care of any kid. You know what I mean? And it's crazy, like, to think like the turmoil we put like our mothers in when we were younger. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like we've obviously all done some kind of fucked up shit or something that was like at least stressful for them. They already didn't have to worry about like taking care of a house or taking care of like, the uniform for your school or whatever, whatever it may be, just to kind of add to it. It makes me feel like an asshole now. Like, just like, oh, fuck, I did all that shit. Oops. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. I put her through hell. I mean, I got expelled from almost every school that I went. Ended up in the boys' ranch. I mean, when I was in junior high, what they said was, they go, look, just go home. Don't come back.
Don't come back. Just
don't come back. We're gonna socially promote you to the. I had straight up. So we're gonna socially promote you to the. And it was like 3 weeks before the end of school, right? And they just like I had like 35. I've been suspended a bunch of times. Had 35 referrals. Like when you get sent to the office, and he said, and my counselor said, dude, go home. Don't come back. Don't ever come back. We never want to see you here again. I'm like, am I getting suspended? And he's like, no, you're getting. Get out.
Holy shit. I mean, like, just for a school to completely give up on you, holy fuck. Like, that's like their fucking job. You know what I mean? Like, that's just something that, like, they're just like, okay, yeah, like, this needs to happen. Like, we need to change this kid's life. And for them to just utterly quit is kind of insane. Holy shit.
Well, that just goes to show how much of an asshole I was.
Yeah, no shit, man. Damn.
Yeah, I mean, it's like two people are just like, dude, I would watch. Get the fuck out of our hair. So yeah, and then when I went into high school, it's like I was already hanging out with all of the older kids, right? Because when I was a freshman, I was hanging out with the seniors and the juniors already, because of the kids in my neighborhood. And so yeah, I ended up going there. My first time with the law, I'd screwed this girl over the summer, and I didn't realize that she had a boyfriend. But her boyfriend was actually a norteño, all right? So, a South Sider and a North Sider, 13s and the 14s, Sureños and norteños. So I guess that he was a norteño or something. I wasn't involved in any of that shit. It's like, dude, unless it's got dollar signs in front of the number, I ain't
I mean, that's fair. I mean, that's entirely fair.
And so this dude calls me up, and he threatens me and leaves a message on the answering machine. So what I do is I take that tape and I take it to school the next day, and I hang out in the parking lot all the time. I know everybody. I know all the gangbangers. I know, like, I'm cool with everyone. And so I play this tape, and I like, check this out, man. This dude fucking is telling me this, and he wants me to come down to the school. Before I knew it, I had 4 carloads of dudes. And we're driving down to the dude's school, right? The school in the next city over, Deanza. And I wasn't planning on really. I didn't expect for that to happen. So I didn't know what was going to happen if I did run into the dude. And sure as shit, man, this dude comes walking up with the girl that I screwed, right? Because they're still girlfriend boyfriend. She runs off, and he walks right into us, and we're like all surrounding him, right, in the parking lot. And I wasn't going to do anything to the guy. Like, I was just going to be like, hey, what's up? Why were you calling my house? And the guys that I was with, they were like serious, some hardcore, like gangbanger dudes. He starts reaching into his pocket for something, and next thing I know, man, he gets pinballed. Bing, 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 bing. And he runs into the store, and like a little convenience store, like a 7-Eleven. He gets picked up, thrown onto the counter, the register, everything else gets knocked off. He's getting beat up. We're all on camera, right? He actually gets into his pocket, has a knife. That's what he was going for, is his knife. Yeah. And he ends up slicing somebody across the face, in the store, because where he's defending himself. I mean, dude, he was getting the shit beat out of him. And I didn't touch him one time the whole time.
What the fuck? So you just didn't touch us? Damn, you didn't even fuck with this guy, but everyone just backed you up.
That's crazy. And so I was like, all right. we took off. I go down and act like nothing happened. I'm sitting at Subway, and all our security people come into the Subway. I don't know how the fuck they knew where I was, but they came into that Subway, took me off, and that was my first run-in with the law. So I got charged with inciting a riot. And some other shit. And I'm like, man, I'm getting in all this trouble to punch the dude once.
That's crazy, man. I mean, shit.
So, and that was the start of it, really. Because once you get into the system, especially and you're incorrigible and you can't be controlled, it was over from there, man. I mean, I started doing meth that summer. As I wasn't even a sophomore in high school yet, and I was already doing meth. And it was crank back then. Before like now it's considered meth, like crystal, but it was crank then. And so I mean, I went rehab at 16. It was I ended up being 18 months there. Got out, was doing all right. Moved to Sacramento. Started living there for a while. Got back on it. Started hanging out with the strippers, selling drugs, partying all the time. And that's really where I kind of got my foot in as a drug dealer. And I was a horrible drug dealer. I sucked. I didn't make a lot of money. I supplied my habit. So it was like, I would either be selling cocaine, GHB. It's like whatever drug that at the time that I was doing and partying with, I would sell. That way I could pay some of my bills a little bit and keep myself high on whatever it was I was taking. And the only reason I didn't get beat up for not paying people is that I had all these strippers hanging around. So the dudes were like, well, I'm not going to beat you up. Then all the girls would go, because I was really good friends with a few of them, like the ones that I wasn't screwing.
No shit.
And so, and then I got into a situation. I got in a fight with one guy, and this dude was crazy. And it was one of those things that if we cross paths, one of us is not going to make it out. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm kind of a bitch, so I'm going to leave. I'm leaving town. And my chick was down with it. I'd gotten her pregnant, and she was a stripper already. And so I'm like, well, let's just move to Vegas, dude. There's plenty of strip clubs. You can go work there. Like, I wasn't trying to worry about my job. I'm like worrying about, all right, well, how are you going to support me?
That's fucking funny. It's like, hey, you could just fucking jump clubs. Fuck it.
Yeah. Well, that was the funny thing, man, is like, that's everybody to me was, and that's where my thinking was, because I learned how to manipulate people at such a young age, and learned all of that, right? Is that people became a means to the end that I needed you for. You know what I mean? So you were people I just used people, right?
Yeah, just completely sadistically and sociopathically, like just fuck it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I would be sitting in the club while my chick's giving somebody a lap dance, and I'm just looking. I'm like, I would just laugh, because I'm like, you're spending hundreds of dollars on this chick, man, and she's just gonna go home and spend it all on me. I'm like, you're so stupid.
That's crazy. I mean.
Well, I mean, that's just, that you're, when you go to a strip club, 9 times out of 10, man, you're going to get fucked, but you ain't getting laid. That's for sure.
That's really funny. That's crazy. That makes sense. I mean, it makes sense entirely. I mean, at the end of the day, like, the house always wins. So, And so
I was in a few raids before, I got in my own personal raid. Somebody else was that I was messing with. I was involved in some stuff, and then when we went to Vegas. I mean, I got I had my daughter, which I haven't seen since she was 18 months old. Her mom had my rights terminated when I was just before I got in trouble and went to prison, but I could have contested it, but I chose not to. You know what I mean? I was looking at it from more of a perspective like, well, she's better off without me anyways. Now I can go party and do what I want. I'm going to get out of child support. Now I don't have to pay child support. So I was looking at it from all the wrong angles. But I mean, it was probably the best thing that could have happened for her. Did you really want somebody who's that unstable around you when you're trying?
No, I mean, just to touch on that, yeah. I mean, in a way, like I guess as much as like that outcome was probably not right in a lot of people's eyes, like you really think about it, like like as you said, like unstable people will make everyone else not necessarily unstable, but they start getting sucked into that infectious toxicity, and it's just it's just one of those things where like it's either a possible never-ending disappointment or a constant stress, like kind of talking about the single mother situation earlier. Like it makes sense. I mean, like I couldn't tell you if she was better off or not, right? But like it's just cool for you to even think that way. You know what I mean? Because like as much as it like in a sense, I'm sure it wasn't your happiest decision, but like it's just something that I could see the logic through that, if that makes sense.
No, it wasn't the happiest decision. I actually spent about 6 months drunk in Phoenix, dealing with it. Grieving over it. Because I knew it was the wrong thing to do, and it was going to come back to me at some point and like fuck with me for a long time. I'm not. It's not like I'm over it, but I'm at the point where I've made enough peace with it, and I'm like friends with her on Instagram, and it's like in her now. It's like, look, if anything that you want to know, you can ask me, and I'm not gonna like pressure you to like, oh, well, I'm your dad, I really have no right to say anything to you. You know what I mean? It's like everything is on your terms. So if I'm here, you know how to find me, and when you're ready, you're ready.
Hey man, like good on you. I mean, at the end of the day, like that's still a relationship. It may not be like the tightest, but like hopefully if there's ever like a moment where she feels like she could reach out to you and it becomes like a big thing, like for you and her, hopefully you get that moment because it's just cool. At least at the end of the day, like you're not completely X'd out of her life, and that's always a good positive for just on a standpoint like that.
Yeah, she'll shoot me a like every now and then.
Hell yeah, there you go. Yeah, social media is the main craze, and you need those likes. So
yeah, and so that that was right before I ended up going to prison. So I got in a DUI. That happened. And then I got out. I did everything I was supposed to do for the DUI. I moved in with I went and started working at a strip club. I go back to what I'm used to, right? So I go back to what I'm used to.
Yeah.
So I went to the strip club, got a job there, hooked up with another stripper, and this one actually was doing meth harder than I was. Or had been, and I hadn't touched it in about I would say about a year and a half. So I was clean off of it. I mean, I'd smoke some weed and I would do a drink, but I'd stayed off the meth.
Yeah.
She invited me over. She lived down the street from my house. I went over. I came in and I saw that she was smoking a meth pipe, right? And the first thought in my head is I should just walk out right now. And as I'm thinking that, I'm still walking towards her. Sit down, get high, and then it was over from there.
Yeah. Just kind of like a quick relapse, right? Like right then and there, withdrawal almost. Just kind of just gave in.
No, it wasn't a quick relapse. I mean, it was literally before I would be with women that didn't know that I did it, so I had to hide it, right? And so it's a little hard to go buck wild when you have to pretend like you're not a drug addict,
Yeah, I guess I could see how like just kind of being being cautious of it. Like,
yeah,
for sure.
So you have to come home and you can't just hide and you're sneaking around. So versus being able to be up front with all right, we're both getting high, so I mean we can just do what we want, And so it allowed me to start selling drugs heavily. And this is really where I got on the radar with the cops, and they had me on surveillance because I was one of the guys that I was dealing with. He got busted, He turned on me, sent a CI to me, and I sold to an undercover, a confidential informant, and an undercover like 5 times. And then they had me under surveillance, and they knew that I had like I would always be carrying a gun, right? No matter what. And so when I would get out of the car, I'd put it in my back, and when I got into the car, I put it under the seat, right? And so they knew that I had a gun. Well, somehow like a week before I got raided, I felt like my time was coming to an end. You know what I mean? You ever have that sixth sense, like something's not right? I feel like I'm going to be getting screwed here pretty soon. And so I got rid of all the guns, but I kept all the other stolen stuff. I literally had people that were slamming it, like needle users, IV drug kind of people. Yeah, they were kind of working for me. I would have them go out and do smash and grabs, and they would come back with all of the stuff. I'd give them the truck to go and use. So I was kind of like the ringleader of these drug addicts. You know what I mean? Because I was paying them in drugs for everything that they were giving me. I was providing them with the way to go and do all this crime. And so, I just had so much crap. I finally ended up getting raided, and they came in like I was Noriega based, concussion grenades, flashbangs in a townhouse, right? And so they didn't really know what room I was in, and I was not in any of these rooms. Concentrated these bangs and these flashbangs and shit, right? I was in the back with somebody else. My girlfriend and her friend were asleep in the other room. This is probably like 2-3 o'clock in the morning. I had cops on, or something was on in the background really loud in the living room, so I didn't really I didn't know what was happening. I thought it was cops, really, and on the TV. And so what ended up happening is, long story, I had one gun left. It was a small, like 25. Serial number was filed off of it, and I thought somebody was like doing a drive-by on my place, right? So just picture a wall, like a hallway. Here's a hallway, corner here, right? In front of that, so here's the corner. The corner's right here. Here's the wall here. The front door is right here. I had one of those big screen TVs. Remember the projection screen that weighed a ton and were huge, like 5 or 6 feet, tall. Yeah. So I had that in front of the door. The door didn't open up all the way because of the TV sitting there. So the door. So literally, when I looked around the corner like this, all I could see was just SWAT shields and like guns pointed like this. Mind you, I have this gun in my hand down here that they can't see. So immediately when I saw, I threw the gun behind the in one motion, I just like dove, threw the gun behind the TV, dove down, and put my hands around my head, right? Like, because I wasn't gonna give them any reason. Dude, these SWAT team people, if they would have seen that gun, they would have lit me up and been dead. No bullshit. I mean, just seeing that weapon, I would have been dead. All right. Yeah. So I narrowly escaped with my life there. Not to mention, I'd already almost died like 5 or 6 times prior to that from either being in accidents, fucked up, overdosing a couple of times on different stuff. So I mean, I've almost died a few times, and so I didn't get caught with that gun because they got pissed off at me because I had my window. There was double pane glass window. I had pane. I had tinted so you couldn't see in. When they shot one of these things into the window, it went through and couldn't make it through the second pane and bounced back on them and blew up on them. And their police dog, one of their police dogs, it scared them and it bit them. So they were already pissed. Yeah, they were already pissed when they came in, right? And so what they did is, once they got me in cuffs and they started asking questions, my girlfriend out, and there was another guy that was there who was in the back with me and I was printing up. I was working on $100 bill because I was counterfeiting money at the same time too that they didn't know about. But I didn't have enough for them to prosecute me on it anyways. So what ended up happening is they were already pissed at me. I answered. They picked me up, rammed me into the big screen TV, into the screen of it, pushed the TV up over the gun, and they never found the gun.
Damn. Talk about good luck anyway.
Yeah, what ended up happening with that gun, the dude who, the guy that helped clean up, the girls didn't know that it was there. So he stole that gun, and about 3 weeks later, he walked into a raid with that gun and got busted.
Oh, shit.
So, and it didn't have the serious, so that's an extra charge on top. So, yeah, I got lucky. I didn't get caught with that.
Yeah, no shit. You wouldn't be breathing.
No. And then they let me out 2 days later on an OR. Didn't get any of the drugs. Didn't find any. They couldn't find it in a VCR combo slot that was up in the corner, high, and the police dog couldn't sniff it. He couldn't. He was going through sniffing everything, and he couldn't smell that up there. And they never thought to look in it. So when I came back out, I had plenty of drugs to keep selling, and plenty of money to go and move and get a whole new place. Stopped selling drugs, started doing fraud, making checks, and that's where my fraud really started right there. Because I went out on the run. I'm like, you know what? Fuck that. Catch me if you can. I'm not turning myself back in. I know that I got a lot of time waiting for me. And then that's what I did. And then they finally busted me. I made a mistake. I was kind of done, man. I was tired of running around. I hit a couple of licks like a week prior before I got in trouble. And then I was using an ID to get a hotel because I was cheating on my time with this other chick. And so I was trying to hook up a hotel room to get laid, basically. And that didn't work out. Unfortunately, the ID and the identity that I had stolen, the dude was black, and I didn't realize that. And like I had made an ID to go along with it, put my picture in that. I may have known that he was black, but I never thought I was going to get caught. So you know what I mean?
That's fair. I mean, it's just kind of like, it won't matter.
Yeah, and so when you get the seedy part of I don't know if it's every hotel in Vegas, but like even like the weekly rental ones, they as soon as you go to get something there, they'll shoot your information and a copy of your ID and whatever payment form, or I think no, it's just an ID. They'll shoot it to Metro to make sure that you're not a fugitive, right? And so when they shot him that information, they ran it, and it's like, here's this dude, and here's the black dude who's actually, you know what I mean?
Yeah. They're just like, oh yeah, this isn't him.
Yeah, so they were waiting for me. So when I went and I got the lady goes, okay, it'll be ready in like an hour and a half, right? Didn't even think nothing of it because I'm just, I'm so worried about, getting laid. Well, meanwhile, okay, so I come back and they're ready. They come and they surround me. It was the same dude who ended up who knew that I had all that stuff when I got busted the first time. The fraud and forgery dude. He's like, I knew you'd turn up again, and sure as shit. And he had a Secret Service dude. So this is where I got the federal case. He had a Secret Service dude on a ride along with him. All right. I had a shotgun that I had bought in that same identity, right? And I bought that shotgun because I was going to kill somebody. The dude. So when I went and hit these licks, right? I got taxed by the dude. Said he was a Hell's Angels guy, and so he's like, "I'm going to tax you." I went and I did a lick, came back with a bunch of money. Our roommate at the time had been calling me the whole time, like, "Hey, when are you coming back? When are you coming back?" And it was like, this chick doesn't ever care what we're doing. So it was really out of character for her to like be wondering what we're doing so hard. And so I knew something was up. I went, before we even came home, I went and hid all the money that I got on this lick, right?
Mm-hmm.
And showed up, sure as shit, man. This dude was there. We get there, we start getting high, passing around the bowl, whatever. And then next thing you know, he's got a gun on his lap, and he's telling me to get on the ground. And he's like, "You're being taxed. Where's all the shit?" I'm like, "Where's all what shit, man?" I mean, dude, all I got is some fireworks from New Mexico and here. Like, we didn't go and get score no drugs or anything like that. And so, anyways, long story short, I ended up convincing the dude that he'd be silly to like I'm so smart and I can do all of this other stuff. You want peanuts, and I can give you the whole. You want a couple peanuts when I can give you the whole bag. And so he bought it. I let him take some of the stuff that he had there, and then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna kill that motherfucker now. And I had the gun, just purchased it, and ended up getting busted. So I think the universe intervened in that one, and instead of completely ruining my life, I only ruined it a little bit.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, so obviously after all of this occurring, what was the pivotal moment to decide to change, like, obviously that lifestyle?
That was 2004.
Yeah.
That was 2004 when I got busted. So I didn't turn it all around until 2010.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to prison, came back out. Around the time that 2008, when the market crashed, I had been in an apprenticeship program for my trade, right, for my union, and I started it, and all of a sudden the economy crashed. I'm sitting at home doing nothing. And that's the what do they call that? The devil's something about idle time or idle hands is the devil's
idle hands with the devil's plaything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and exactly what it is, man. I just had too much time. The people where I knew I could find the meth at, and then I just went on a run again. And I was married at the time, and I just basically left, went AWOL from that marriage, and I was hanging out in the city, just doing committing crimes, and that's where I learned how to card, doing credit card fraud with making my own cards, pressing them, information on the back, making IDs. Before the generation before the new California ID, it's all raised now, and they got all this imprinted shit. So yeah, I mean, the pivotal moment is that at some point I just got tired of just being a piece of shit. Yeah. I was 34. Look at me. What do I have to show for it? I'm still using people. I'm still disappointing people. My ex-wife now, but then was like, hey, I'm done with you. And, I was like begging her to take me back. And I was like on the side of a busy highway crying on the side, just like, I'm going to change. I'm going to change. It'll be different this time. The same shit you hear from every, drug addict that if you've known a drug addict or somebody who's got an addiction, and you've given them a million chances, and you always hear different this time. For some reason, man, that just echoed in my head, and I'm so tired of saying that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm so tired of being in this position where it's like, I'm just, I don't know what's next for me. I have no stability. I'm like a gypsy. You know what I mean? I'm just floating around. I'm floating around existing. I have nothing to lose. So, why wouldn't I just be a fuck up, man? I mean, I'm not risking anything, really, am I?
Yeah.
And so I just got tired of that. And when I went to, there's a whole lot of stuff, man, that's in here. And what I would suggest to your listeners, anybody out there who's watching this, go check out my podcast, because really there's bits and pieces of every one of my stories in each one of those shows. I mean, even though I'm interviewing other people, bits and parts of my story always come out because I'll relate to somebody in some way. I mean, my podcast is basically about people with bottoms and life struggles, and how my guests got. So just people like me, who have been through something traumatic or something, or an ordeal, whatever it is, man, and they're telling their story. So mine ends up coming out.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the pivotal moment there. In 2010 was when that happened. I went and did a violation, a 90-day violation. I came back out, and I had gotten clean before I went in to do that off of cigarettes and off of meth, because I knew I was going into a county facility, and I didn't want to be vulnerable, you know what I mean, and kicking something in an unfamiliar place that's dangerous. And so, I did that there, and before I got there, did my time, got out, and stayed sober. I used the program a bit, and AA, and I went to NA a little bit, but it really wasn't my thing. I used it in the beginning it gave me the distance from the substance, and just changing everything, like my friends, changing the people that I hung out with, the activities that I did. Started, playing adult slow pitch softball, which sounds kind of funny, but I mean, that's what it was that did it. That did it for me. It's like I was no longer around these people and doing things that was making me feel like shit about myself, which would put me in a mindset, well, dude, I'm a piece of shit anyway, so why not go get, I got nothing to lose, and so I changed all of that and the whole place and everything that I was around. So, I started having, I didn't like the way that that league was being run. So I'm like, you know what? I'll make my own soft league.
Yeah.
And I did that in my own city. I had my own league. And so it was that one accomplishment that kind of kicked off everything else, because it takes goals and achieving goals to build confidence, right?
Yeah, that's complete facts for sure.
And it's like all these victories keep, you complete one, and that just turns you around. And, oh, well, if I can do that, well, let's try this. If I like this, let's try that. And it's that progression that has to come, and usually it comes when you're younger, right? When you're a kid, you're playing, little league, and you're all of these things that are building self-esteem with you. If you come from a family, hopefully they're instilling that in you. You got your dad there who's pushing you forward, and hey, go try this, go do that. I didn't have any of that, so I really had to figure it out at 35.
I mean, like, that's another thing, like, mentally, like, I was gonna ask that next question, like, as far as like did you dive into books, like literature, movies, film, like what exactly kept you giving that drive? I know you talked about like goals being a thing, but like, as far as like the mental strain of when you had adversity and not reaching those goals, like what pushed you forward and what progressed you? Because obviously, at your age, it's very difficult. I think everyone gets into that midlife crisis stage, at a certain point in life, and it's just kind of like, how do we progress, even though they feel like they've either done it all or they haven't done enough? And in this case, obviously you do a complete 180 on your life. Like how did you keep going, for yourself? You know what I mean? Especially not having, a good support system.
Well, I actually, when I got out, I've always had a good support system.
Oh, okay.
It was so that's why, my circumstances weren't what took me down, you know what I mean? And all of this, it was, everything that I've been through was self-inflicted. There were choices that I made, not because of my circumstances. I chose to go hang. I lived in a house with a swimming pool, and that was a funny thing. I grew in a nice 3-story house with a swing, and even though my mom had to work her ass off, I mean, I didn't want for anything. You know what I mean? I think, I would get upset when she would take me to Mervyn's to go shopping. You know what I mean? What everybody else was having. Yeah, what everyone else is having, like, having to go to Kmart, So, yeah, it wasn't any of that.
That's crazy. I
What, what,
mean,
what was the question again? I
like
lost.
no, you're good. As far as like self development, like what do you feel like? What did you do to keep going? I know talking about like
After I got out.
yeah. Like, did you read books? Like, what did you reflect on? I know you obviously have been really insightful as far as like being self aware, but what did it take to get you to that point? Like, was it just literally like kind of like a meditation, like thinking about what you do, obviously with all the time being in prison, or were you reading books in prison? Like, what exactly helped
Yeah,
you make everything enlightening? I guess is probably a better question.
well, I read a lot of books in prison, but I mean, I didn't the kind of books that you're thinking. Like, I would read a lot of, I had the Twilight series. I read those books. I'd read like, like James Cameron, or
Mm-hmm.
just John Grisham. I'd read almost every one of his books. A lot of courtroom dramas. I read a lot of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I touched on Eckhart Tolle a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It gave me prison gave me a timeout.
Yeah.
It gave me a chance to reflect on what I did, and how I was to people. But it didn't end until 2010, because obviously I got out and I was still doing the same shit. I had a couple breaks in between, but it was really just taking a look at myself, how I treated people, how I treated women. And I mean, even up until my last relationship, I mean, I didn't really, I mean, I was still an asshole to women.
Yeah.
And my ex, my daughter's mom, daughter that she's almost 3 now.
Mm-hmm.
It was, it's kind of like, so when you're trying at something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's all, think of it as like a child, all right? A child to walk, they
Mm-hmm.
fall a whole bunch, all
Yeah.
right?
Definitely.
But
Mm-hmm.
at some point, they figure out how to, oh, I need to do, and they figure out their balance, right? Well, it's no different from somebody that's trying to stop doing drugs,
Yeah.
or stop trying to be whatever it is, whatever behaviors that you have in your life that are not serving you, or dysfunctional, codependency, you name it, anything that you're doing that can turn into a habit. When you try to stop that habit, it just doesn't stop when you
Yeah.
decide that it's going to stop. You
Mm-hmm.
have to actually work at it. You have to be thinking about it. You have to have it on your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was kind of like taking all of these pieces, right? Okay, so I figured out how to get self-esteem. All right, the right way, not the wrong way. I figured out,
Yeah.
you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
how to reflect and look at what I'm doing, and take responsibility for this. Right, I got to take
Mm-hmm.
responsibility for this. This is the only thing I can control. I can control me and how I react. All
Yeah.
right, and
Facts. Mm-hmm.
I started looking to myself in all of my problems before I looked out here. All right, so
Mm-hmm.
everything, like, it was a mindset shift. And so I shifted my mind to me first. What part did I play in it?
Yeah.
And in learning, it was just learning that I can and I can't be.
Yeah.
Obviously, I haven't done meth in a long time. I drink occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
I take edibles all the time just for pain.
Yeah.
After I got off of meth, I had a 7-year opiate addiction, that was
Mm-hmm.
legit. And I was, taking 200, 300 Norcos and Percocets every month. I was spending an extra $500 on it. And that was after I already struggled. And that was when I was doing good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was about maybe a year. No, it wasn't even that. It was right before I started this podcast that I stopped doing that.
Yeah.
And the reason why I stopped doing the opiates, because I was getting them from the doctor.
Yeah.
I was like, well, how am I going to talk to people about changing my life when I'm sitting here, still doing pills,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what stopped me from doing that. And I used marijuana to kind of control the withdrawal from, I weaned myself down, and then I switched over to edibles. And now I just kind of take them as like microdose sometimes, and it's
Mm-hmm.
more of like Zoloft, Prozac for me.
Mm-hmm.
It just gives me a feeling of well-being, and I lost where I was going. Sorry.
No, you're good, man. I mean, just to
That's
speak
part
to
of the side effects. That's part of the side effects of taking edibles, man. Times.
No, I mean, like just to speak to the book portion of that answer. I mean, man, there's not like we talked about it on the podcast I was telling you about with Todd Sullivan, like how all books have value. Whether it's Twilight to like something insightful from like John C. Maxwell, and I don't know. I think I appreciate books now more than I should have back in my past, because I mean, they could spark imagination, inspiration, anything really. I mean, whether it's a kid's book or not, like it's just one of those things where like I feel like if you use its context for whatever reason that you see, it's all that matters. I mean, and as far as everything else, man, I mean that's dope, dude. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with like when it starts with you, because I mean mindsets and choosing to reflect on yourself versus blame and excuses is like such a big thing in this world. And I mean, even for myself, like I could say like for so long I didn't start this podcast because I was so busy with work. But it's like, no, it's a mentality that like, hey, if I really wanted to do it, I need to sit down on my ass and actually do it. Like stop bitching that like, oh, life's such a bitch. And, now that Corona's happened, like, yeah, I have more time. But like when it comes back to like going back to work, am I still going to do this consistently as I have been? And really that's on me. It's not on anyone else. It's not on, it's on my own work ethic. And I like obviously yours being so much deeper and obviously looking into your insights and how to change. It's cool to see how self-aware you are, and even now you said like some of your relationships have been difficult due to your past, and it's still something I could imagine that you're still working on every day to improve, and that's fucking legit.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the books go, like I don't read a whole lot. I need to. I know that I'm just lazy that way. And that's stuff that I struggle with. I'm a procrastinator. I wait till the last minute for everything. I struggle with that.
Yeah.
What really did it for me is when I discovered podcasts. Okay.
Yeah.
I discovered Joe Rogan. And
Joe Rogan's dope. Like that's like everyone's go-to for sure. He's so good.
Yeah, I mean, he's the reason why I started my own is because I was just listening to him, and I listened to my earphones, and like my trade, I'm by myself working for 8 hours a day, so I was consuming 8 hours of his shows every day for about, I don't know, maybe 2 years before I even started my own or even thought about it. And so just his message, and then I would follow other people off of his show, Jordan Peterson, Sam Harris, Sam Tripoli, the Conspiracy Farm podcast. And so it was like this whole world I was exposed to, and you're a fly on the wall of some amazing conversations. Yeah. And so I would have no choice but to, like, I was listening to him saying, and it, like, everything resonated with me, and I was just like, dude, you're still kind of a piece of shit. And it, really smart people and all the smart people that he has on. I was just like, dude, you're just, you got a lot of work to do, man, because there's a lot, you're broken in a lot of areas.
Yeah.
And even from my last relationship, I was very abusive, not like physically, but verbally abusive, and it was kind of like what I grew up listening to and saw. Not that I remember any of it. I mean, I was there. I know I was there.
Yeah.
And so, it wasn't until I had my kid and I kind of, there was a situation where me and my ex were arguing, my daughter kind of around somewhere by me, but then I realized that she was gone, and so I like, where'd she go? And so I went looking for her, and she was all the way in the furthest part of the house hiding. and I was like, well, was that? I wonder if that was me when I was a kid and going through the same thing. And so that was the first kind of like, oh shit, she's old enough to kind of understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And then the last straw is we were fighting she was in the car seat, and she was only not even like, maybe she was just turned 2.
Yeah.
And she yelled out, "Stop." And so I was like, oh, okay. All right, I got to change this. I got to, if we can't get along and I can't figure out how to treat you right the way that you want to be treated, then I need to go, because all I'm doing is showing my daughter this is okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
No, that makes complete and total sense. Honestly, like, I mean, I've always said it, like, through, managing a business and just talking to people, like, we we mold people's behaviors, like, always. Like, it's almost like passive approval. So, like, if I call my friend and he has a new friend with him and I call him a piece of shit and he's completely cool with it, eventually, like, that new friend will eventually call him a piece of shit, but, like, probably the friend will take more offense to that because it's like, hey, I'm cool with this guy, I'm not cool with you. And it just becomes like this weird domino effect of stuff. But super crazy. No, I completely understand, like, where you're coming from there. And we actually have a question for you from Alan Espada. His question is this: how was the transition from being locked up to being released, and what can be done to help individuals once they are out?
So the transition was difficult for sure. I had PTSD when I came out. I had to invoke violence on people while I was in there. It wasn't as bad as being in like a maximum security, but I mean, it's there's still things that you have to do that you probably wouldn't do. You get it's very segregated, so you may not come in there a racist, but you're a racist while you're in, just straight up, and you have to. I mean, that's what you got to do to survive. Maybe not some of these lower security places are like that. I was in a medium, so I mean, it was still, you couldn't eat after a black person. I ran with the whites, even though I look like I'm Hispanic. I just didn't want to. I knew going in my size. I'm 6'1". I'm a good sized linebacker, and most of the Southsiders or Sureños or the Mexican gangbangers, they're all really kind of small. So not all of them, but I mean the majority of them they're smaller. And so they definitely would have wanted me, and I would have ended up being I would have probably got more time, and that's not what I was trying to do. So I said that I was Italian, and so I could roll with the whites, even though I'm half white. And if you just to listen to me, you would think that I was white.
That's fair. That's a fair assumption.
So it was, it was a difficult transition. I got out. I stayed drunk for a while. I pulled myself out of that. Got it together. If I hadn't had support, like a support system to come out to, it would have been very difficult. I probably wouldn't have made it. And I think that's where the problem lies with people when they're re-entering society. They either don't have the support system, which includes money. Like, I had a vehicle when I got out, so I didn't have to take the bus to go to the probation to do this. I mean, they put a lot of high expectations, and if you don't have that system in place, it sets you up to fail. The system does set you up to fail, in my opinion. So I was lucky. I was lucky that I got out, and I had my mom, who's always been there for me, even though I've fucked her over a million times, right and left. She's just never given up on me. And so without that, I probably would have failed.
It's crazy.
Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think you got the first part. The second one is what can be done to help individuals.
I'm not sure what you can do. I mean, prison's a business.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like healthcare. Why does Western medicine never fix anything? I mean, they fix some stuff, but I mean, they're not in business to fix you. They're in business to they need you. They need you as a customer. They need you as You know, they're not gonna, cancer doesn't get cured. You know, why not? It's a big business. That's why they're not in a hurry to try to cure. Some people are, but a lot of them aren't. It's the same way with prisons. I went to craziest thing I did was I went through when I was going from state prison to federal prison. I left from Las Vegas, and some reason we had to go from Las Vegas down into Arizona, up through Bakersfield, through the Bay Area, and then up into Oregon, up the coast. And we stopped in this town called Florence, Arizona. Mm-hmm. And this town literally has 9 private prisons in the town. The whole town is just
9 in one town. Is that what you said?
In one town.
What the fuck? That's kind of bullshit. Like, Jesus.
Dude, and there was people in there, Alaska. You know what I mean? It was like, this is crazy. Why are there so many prisons?
Yeah, it's insane.
So it's a business, man. They got to keep them full.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest monopolies, I would imagine. Like that. I mean, it's not underestimated. I'm sure people know that. It's just one that just will probably never be controlled or mandated as much as we want it to be.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. Mm-hmm. We're starting to see a lot with this whole situation that we're in. Mm-hmm. You know, people are getting a chance to see. Because most people were so busy before this, you know what I mean? Nobody has time to look at the news. Nobody has time to read the paper. And if you are, you know, there's a lot of stuff that goes on that most people it's like background noise, right?
Yeah.
And so you just sort of ignore it. It's like, all right, well, I'm more concerned about my mortgage, all of these bills that I have to maintain this boat, you know, to keep this ship floating. Yeah. And now we've you know gotten a chance to actually, you know, do some of the things that we've wanted to do. Maybe take a look at the news and realize what is this? You know, MSNBC, CNN. You know, if you're watching mainstream, you're being fed a narrative that they want you to believe, and a lot of people do. Yeah. But there's also a lot of people that are following some of the not so mainstream and independent media and journalists and investigative journalists out there. And, you know, things are blatant right now. Mm-hmm. You know, just it's crazy. So I think that the whole system from the top to the bottom in our society and our, you know, if you want to call it capitalist system, it all needs to be revamped. The government, everything. It needs a reboot. We're running on technology and the system that we're in and the technology that we have, it's having a problem right now. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's at a standstill. It doesn't know how to progress forward. That's what I feel like.
That's fair. I mean, I don't know enough, honestly. Like, I'm one of those who unfortunately look at the background noise as far as news and feel like I'd rather be up to date. And it's given me the time, though. I'll tell you what, this whole time and reading a lot more on just news in general. So it makes a whole lot of sense the way you're saying it, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think you know what I'm concentrating on. You know, the podcast, obviously. That's a huge thing for me because it's more of it's an outlet for me to share my stuff, but also you know, help other people through their stories.
I mean, and I'm sure you have. I mean, like in so many ways, because like again, like when I was super excited to have you on the show, just to hear like, you know, not necessarily the shit you got into, but like how you got out. You know what I mean? Because it's always so hard. Like adversity, like, you know, mental fragility is like such a thing now more than ever, and like to see someone come out of such a trouble past, that's the way I'll put that, and then come out to be successful and just get their life together and now sharing a message is such a big deal. And you know, it's always good for me and I'm sure for other people to hear success stories all around, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, now aside from the podcast, drone business that I started. Yeah. Because I'm a licensed drone pilot. You know, it's just, I mean, there's tons of things. Like I ran for a business agent in my union. I'm involved in my local, at least I was before this, on a rowing team. I just found things and connection. I found a connection to something, man.
Yeah.
Really, that's what it was. And if anybody out there, if you're struggling with any kind of an addiction, substance, alcohol, pills, whatever it is, man, I would tell you to go and Google Johann Hart, and he's got a TED Talk, and it's called "Everything You Thought You Knew About Addiction Is Wrong." Listen to that. Listen to that TED Talk, and it'll really it changed my life and my perspective. And the opposite of addiction is connection, and that's what a lot of addicts we're lacking connection, and so we're replacing it with a connection to something else, like a substance or whatever it is. Fill in the blank.
Yeah.
So check it out, man. Check out my podcast. A lot about addiction. I talk to people that have been addicted. I talk to everybody, man.
Yeah.
And I'll even talk to you if you got to think. No, seriously, man.
True,
I mean,
for sure.
You think you have a story that somebody would benefit from hearing that you've gone through in your life? Head on over to my go to my podcast. Go to the bottom of the show notes on most of them, and you'll find a link tree. Hit that link tree, and that'll take you right to a scheduling page tab. Hit that. Schedule a time and fill out the guest form, man. And if I think your story will benefit somebody, I'll have you on the show. Seriously, it's that easy.
Fuck yeah. Well, guys, obviously you heard that. You know where you're gonna find this guy. I'm gonna be blasting links here shortly on the description where you can find and hear his podcast too. Do you got anything else from me, brother? Because this has been a good show. It's been really interesting to hear your insights, and honestly enlightening to hear how aware you are. You don't come across a lot of people that way, and it's dope, man. It's good shit. Hopefully we could have you back and we could talk some more.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm always up for it. Transparency is key. I've found it's hard for me to hide from demons when everybody knows what they are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's pretty profound. Like in a huge way, especially like when people are aware of what's gone down, like more than anything. So that's legit, man. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's just kind of how I operate. I'm authentic. I'll tell you pretty much everything. I mean, even listen to some of my episodes, stuff that comes out, and there's things that don't get talked about. Most people are shameful of, and that's a lot of the reasons why people start to use shame and being ashamed of certain things. And I'm not afraid to talk about it. I'm not going to go into great detail, but I mean, I share enough to let you know you're not alone.
Yeah.
And
that's definitely half the battle. I mean, the minute you make a connection and some sort of relative thing that speaks to you, like that's all you need. And then eventually, like, the inspiration will come with the work. Putting in the work and putting in the grind to change all those things. So.
And seeing results too is a huge, because what keeps people going is you have to see results. I think so many diets and weight loss things just kind of go by the wayside, man, just because you don't see the results, so you stop, you quit. You're like, oh, what's the point?
Yeah.
And and so when you're seeing results in your attitude and different things that you're doing, it keeps that fire going, man, and makes you want to keep going further. Okay, then I can do this now, and then I can do this.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. Well, fuck yeah, man. I appreciate you being on the show, and thank you everyone that's been watching. Hopefully next time you guys could join us on Shoot the Shit podcast, and thank you, Sean, again for coming on, and we'll definitely have you on again.
Yeah, for sure. The show is called Nowhere to Go But Up podcast. It's on all major platforms. I'll give you the link tree, and that's really the best place that you're going to find me is if you hit that link tree. That'll take you to all of my places, all my social media. You can hear some of my story from another podcast I was on there. Facebook group. I have my own community, so if you want to join me there. I interact there quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
Anywhere you're going to want to find me is on that link I give you, and you can throw that somewhere.
Yeah, hell yeah. I'll definitely get those links from you, and we'll get it attached. But thank you so much again, and I will catch y'all later. Thank you so much.
All right, brother. I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing, and thanks for having me on.
Oh
And
yeah,
everybody
man.
else out there, take it easy.
For sure. I'll catch y'all later.